Welcome everyone to the first episode of M2M on the Couch. I'm joined by a familiar face in the M2M realm, Kevin Kim, and we're going to be talking about a pretty recent event. Most of y'all probably have heard of this, the Disney investor call / meeting, and partly due to the fact that I know much more about Star Wars than I do Marvel, and partly due to the fact, and Kevin, if you think otherwise, let me know. I think that the announcement for all the new Star Wars shows and movies was probably meant a bit more than for Marvel, just the state at which both universes were in at the time. Do you think otherwise, or do you agree?
Well, I mean, considering that 2020 was kind of like there was drought of Marvel content. I think this was like the first year in a long, long time where there was no Marvel content at all. I think Marvel fans were really craving new content, and it was pretty big for us when Kevin Feige announced all these new projects. But I think 2020 was like a golden year for Star Wars for sure, and all the announced projects was definitely huge. And I think like the impact, I could argue that it was bigger for Star Wars only because Marvel has had years of excellence and Star Wars has been rocky and kind of inconsistent in the recent years. So I would say now this new direction of Star Wars is much more impactful, probably.
Yeah, and I would say that Marvel, the previous phase Marvel was in, which kind of, I don't even think this is a coincidence, kind of started with Jon Favreau's Iron Man. Kind of weird. Also, yeah. I think that, yeah, I do agree. I didn't really think even too much that in 2020 there really wasn't too much Marvel movies coming out, not too many movies in general. So the fact that even like a show like The Mandalorian was able to release at the expected release date in October really was surprising to me and was a big deal. But obviously, I remember when the sequels were out, and around that same time, I think the timeline it was around the Infinity War and Endgame came out around the same time, right?
Yeah. I mean, Infinity War and Endgame were like a year apart, but
Yeah,
like,
but I think it was all like mid 2010s, I guess. But I just remember the high everyone was on after a lot of these Marvel movies, and then with the way I felt personally about the sequels, I was like, man, I wish I could be I wish I was more of a Marvel fan because they really are going through a great era right now. But yeah, I do agree that that point you brought up that really, yeah, 2020 was kind of a year without too much media coming out. A lot of things were put on hold. And going from that, I want to ask, what is the show you're most excited for? And then what's the show you're most curious about? It could be the same show, but I know for me it's two different shows out of the Star Wars shows, yeah.
yeah. Out of a Star Wars show, I would say I'm most excited for Ahsoka. Only because I'm just a huge Clone Wars fan. That was like my childhood, along with like the Marvel movies. But you know, Ahsoka's from Clone Wars from the beginning. Like she's just been an intriguing character, and the way that like Dave Filoni, that's like Dave Filoni's golden thing, right? He created her and he created the story for it, and now that he's going to be leading that show, and finally seeing her on live action was like pretty emotional for me. Like just seeing like the character that I've been loving all these years finally like in a live action setting. So I would say I'm most excited for Ahsoka. And then you said what am I like most
Curious about, because a lot of
curious about? Okay.
because there's a few that we kind of have a good idea what the shows will entail, but there's a few shows that they really have not talked too much about and that are in different time
Yeah.
eras.
Okay. I would say the occult looks. I'll probably most curious about that one. Only because like there isn't a very clear storyline that we know of. So and also like the tiny description they did give was like very intriguing. So I would say I'm most curious about that for sure. And also like now I'm seeing that they're like putting everything in a similar time setting. I would like to see Star Wars more explore more of eras that have not been touched at all. But considering that like now Jon Favreau's here, he's like the universe builder, right? So creating this, as Charlie would say from Emergency Awesome, the MCU, the Mandalorian Cinematic Universe.
The Filoniverse, yeah.
Yeah, the Filoniverse, yeah. That's very intriguing. I love interconnectedness, and that's what really attracts me to watch movies and shows. So
Yeah, I really think that that's what they're going for. I mean, just a few like characters like Fennec Shand from The Mandalorian. She's going to be in the Bad Batch show in an animated form. I really do think that these characters that may have been introduced in The Mandalorian almost as like one-offs or just kind of helping Mando and his gang. I think these characters are probably going to have a bit more significance. A few people even think Bill Burr's character may have more significance. He already did from season one. I don't know too much about that. I don't because there is the we do have the Rangers of the Republic show, which is going to be around that same timeline as the Mando. Ahsoka is going to be in the same timeline, more or less. So, but to answer my own question, I think the Kenobi show is what I'm most excited for, just because when Star Wars years ago announced episodes 7, 8, 9, and then 3 spin-offs that were their own, entity, we got, Rogue One. And after Rogue One, people were there was maybe leaks, but it was super, super not, confirmed. People were considering maybe a Kenobi standalone movie. People were saying possibly a Yoda movie. I think we may get to explore a little bit. I think Yoda, it's possible he could be in the Acolyte with a time frame. But really, the Kenobi show, I think, means a lot, especially having Hayden Christensen come back. And it's the show that really has been talked about since I feel like Disney had purchased Lucasfilm, or not even the show, but just the idea of having Obi-Wan come back. And I think, the show I'm most interested about or curious about is The Acolyte, just because we pretty much know nothing. It's, a few hundred years before episode 1. And I know with the book series Star Wars is doing, the High Republic, it's going to maybe bridge that gap a little bit, because it's an interesting time, because I think Obi-Wan, when he kills Darth Maul in episode 1, a Jedi hadn't killed a Sith, I think, thousands of years, because they had been in hiding. So I think it's interesting. We may see Darth Plagueis. We may see a younger Yoda, by younger, a few hundred-year-old Yoda, but I think there's like a whole new kind of slate to go off of with a few familiar characters, which I feel like that's key as well.
Yeah, I know. I would definitely echo your thoughts on the Kenobi series. Obi-Wan's probably one of my favorite Jedis as well. So, and also like bringing back McGregor for that, and who he's been excited about, for this whole thing, coming back. And he's been like keeping a secret for like a few years now, because he's always.
That's very impressive. I have to give it to him.
Yeah, it is very impressive. It is very impressive. But yeah, I mean, I'm so excited for that, and also like I love how they're bringing back Hayden as Darth Vader. I'm curious on how they're gonna really do it. I'm guessing like they're gonna have scenes where maybe he doesn't have his mask on, like, or his mask breaks, because like I assume they're gonna bring back James Earl Jones for the voice. But I mean, just decide how they're gonna incorporate Hayden. And I just want Darth Vader to be explored more. Like, he's like probably the coolest character in the Star Wars universe, in my opinion. I'm still sad that like we still have not gotten a Darth Vader standalone film. I mean, still my prayers. But that the Kenobi series is definitely gonna be exciting.
Yeah, and I was kind of a little almost confused when they said that there's going to be another fight possibly between Darth Vader and Kenobi, because obviously in episode 4, when they say, when they talk about the previous fight, it makes sense of their fight on Mustafar. But apparently there's another meeting between the two. And yeah, I think possibly Hayden Christensen, when he reprises his role, I think there could be flashbacks to Clone Wars era. That's what I'm hoping for, just seeing them in their Clone Wars armor possibly. But, and they said that Jedi Hunters are going to be in it, which I think we can all assume are Inquisitors, which a bunch of Inquisitors coming to Tatooine fighting Obi-Wan. That would be pretty cool to see live action. But yeah, I'm really excited for that, just because I feel like it's been in the pipeline for so long, at least from rumors that, he's a Kenobi standalone movie, then a limited series, and now we know he's getting an actual series, which I'm super excited for.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at some of the other shows. the Vision show also seems pretty interesting and unique. It's a show that we really know little about, so I'm just open to really anything. I really trust the people. I trust Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. I feel like whatever they're going to be putting their name on, is hopefully going to be pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like the same approach to how I approach like Marvel films and movies. I mean, and shows. Like, yeah, it is fair for me to like kind of doubt or criticize some things or storylines that are going to be brought up. But at the end of the day, like I got to put that trust in the creative minds of Kevin Feige, and I would similarly put my trust in Dave Filoni because the work that he's done for the Star Wars universe as a whole, these past few years.
He's definitely proven himself. I think no one really is doubting him at this point between just Clone Wars Rebels, Mando. He's kind of made his mark and made himself known as the new guy in Star Wars, him and Jon Favreau together. And I feel like if there is any true predecessor to George Lucas in this post Disney Star Wars, I would say it is Dave Filoni. For more videos from M2M, check out our other playlists.